and welcome to my anatomy tutorial. In this tutorial I will be talking about basic anatomy because I'm not an expert and a lot of this stuff is based on the individual style. So let's begin. So the human body is made of a lot of parts which you can split up into shapes. Shapes make it easier to visualize drawing the body. So these are the shapes I'd split it up into. Now another thing that's important is the ratio of body parts. Again, this really depends on style, but the basic anatomy of a person splits the body into roughly half and half. So the head and the torso should be about the same length together as the waist and the legs, though in women it's slightly longer for the legs. The arms, including the hands, should reach the middle of the thigh. The head should be the length of the top of the neck to the nipples, which are just below the armpits. Now if you're going for a more stylistic approach, you can vary these features to suit your fancy, but it's a good idea to understand the basics of anatomy in order to do this very well. Looking at other people's styles can help you decide on what kind of direction you want your art to go in, if you're not sure where to start. I hope this tutorial helps and I'll have more out soon. See you later! Hi, welcome back to another tutorial. In this one we'll be covering referencing and how to do it, so let's get started. So as someone who references a lot, it's incredibly helpful when drawing. I can't visualize things very well, so having a pose in front of me makes it easier to see where all the body parts go. You can get such references from almost anywhere, such as stock photos, normal photos on the internet as long as credit is given, apps like Magic Poser, or even a mannequin. You could even use yourself if you wanted to. Personally, I like to use Magic Poser as you can customize different models yourself and pose them at different angles, which is very helpful, but it's up to the individual which one they prefer. There's a lot of different ways to reference, but today I'll show you the way I do it. First I get the pose I want, in this instance from Magic Poser, and I place it near my canvas. If you're doing this traditionally instead of digitally, have your reference where you can see it. Ideally, you'd want it on something you can draw on, such as a printed out paper or an app on your phone you can draw on photos. If you're using a mannequin, this isn't really needed, as it's already split up into manageable shapes. Alright, so now that you have your reference, what I like to do is draw on the shapes I went through in the anatomy video. This just helps visualize the pose better. Not everyone has to do this, and again it's up to you how you go about this, but this personally helps me. Now that you have the shapes over the pose, it's time to get drawing. You're going to get a pencil or a small looking brush if you're doing this digitally, and start visually copying the shapes like this. This is something that you'll definitely get better with practice, so you're not going to be great at it at first, but that's perfectly okay, and we all start somewhere. When you're happy with the result, look back at the reference one more time and see if it looks about right, or if there's anything you need to adjust on your drawing that you missed earlier. Now the good thing about digital art is that it's easier to adjust things to your liking, but traditionally is great too, and as long as your lines aren't too heavy to rub out, it should be alright. Now that you've got your pose mapped out, you can start cleaning things up. If you're doing this digitally, add another layer and lower the opacity of the shapy layer. On the new layer, you're going to clean up the pose. If you're doing this traditionally, you can just use a pencil. Just make the lines a little darker so you can tell the difference between the shapy sketch and the cleaned up sketch. Alternatively, you could use different colours for this, but it doesn't matter too much. To clean up the pose, you're going to take a look at the reference and see the pose for what it is rather than just shapes. For example, with the head, the jawline is prominent and pointy, so you're going to draw that onto the circle that's currently the head. And you're just going to do that with the rest of the body too, like this. So now that you've got your pose in a bit more detail, it's time to stylize it. This is really up to you how you go about this, but if your style has big eyes, for example, you can go ahead and draw big eyes on your pose, rather than referencing the eyes of the reference. And that's basically how you reference, like I do. There's no real right way to do it, but as long as you're not tracing the pose, or tracing someone else's drawings, then you're good. I hope this tutorial helps and I'll be back with more soon. Bye for now!